grandma,
Which apparently
Oh,
strep
yes,
in
no,
parent,
he
or
needs
strep in adults
chaperone.
is pretty miserable. And
This is just the statutes and regulations, I guess.
our,
learning
our,
outside
our
of some of it.
stigma
I mean, it's-
numbers.
yeah, better than nothing, but a complete joke.
Are you? You got chair on? Good for you.
Our youngest is in
Foundation. Yeah,
Beautiful day in my neighborhood.
You got the foundation.
The ones who actually really deal with it really have
It's
to.
funny, we
Yes, I know. I do know.
cousins of all
Yeah, I'm hot. Hot in the room.
sent it to me. I was like, half the stuff.
So, where did I see it?
I haven't talked to Cody.
I think I saw it on.
Whole thing memorized, but like half the
Frank
stuff
asked
wrong.
me.
I saw it on something.
Hardly ever work.
I know.
And you're like,
That and the fact I can't adjust my prosthetic when I need to. With long pants, I gotta get to the men's room, take them down.
Supervision one is just
The sleeves come up to here, so that ain't no gathering.
Lynn, I get to sit
That's
up there.
because it was on. It was on a agenda.
Get zippers put in their pants leg, but there you go.
Yeah, actually, we're scheduled to move on Friday.
My
Not
coffee.
over with, but we're
Yeah.
You are.
He's on my side. You at least.
I understand.
Want to go 12 now?
Oh, yeah.
Gosh.
Good morning. Appreciate everyone coming out this morning. We have a full agenda, so we'd like to get started. This is the South Carolina Building Codes Council meeting. Statement of public notice. Public notice of this meeting was properly posted at the Synergy Business Park, King Street Building, and on the agency's website, and provided to all requesting persons, organizations, and news media with Section 3480 of the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion so made, Patrick Bradshaw.
Second, Melissa Hopkins.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. We would like to have an introduction of council members that are here today. So You want to start?
Doug Terrell, modular rep.
Alan Campbell, engineering.
Bennett Griffin, Insurance.
Mike Richardson, electrical representative.
Melissa Hopkins, governmental agency.
Frank Huell,
Microphone on?
Frank Huell Plumbing.
There you go. Delisa Clark, state engineer designee.
Douglas Brigham, State Representative, Building Official.
Chris Cullum, fuel gas representative.
Steve Adams, General Public.
Patrick Bradshaw, disabled member.
Sal Napolitano, architect.
David Black, Municipal Administrator.
Charles Stewart, general contractor.
Thank you. We do have two members that have requested an excuse absence, Mike Lohman and Mike Gelazada. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the absences?
Chris Cullum make motion to approve those absences.
Douglas Brigham, second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We have the meeting minutes from November 4th that were posted. Do I have a motion to approve those meeting minutes as posted?
Patrick Bradshaw, make a motion to approve as posted.
Mike Richardson, second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We appreciate everybody coming out and the little hecticness that we've been dealing with the weather. But we have a lot of things to do today, so we think it'll be a very efficient meeting, I hope. Okay. Staff reports. The first is the legislative update from Holly Beeson.
Good morning, Chair, members of the council. I'm Holly Beeson with our Office of Communications and Governmental Affairs. I just wanted to give you all a brief update on legislation and regulations. Of course, you all have the 2024 code modifications that are proceeding through the regulatory process. And as you well know, what that simply means is that even though you all approved the modifications this past fall, they go into the Code of Regulations and are reviewed and approved by the General Assembly. So at this point, we have gone through the House. Maggie Smith did a beautiful job testifying to explain them for the House members on the Regulations and Administrative Procedures Committee at their subcommittee level. There were a few questions. She's provided responses for those. They are now in the full committee. We've started that process. They will have a second hearing on those to address any more questions. They simply ran out of time last week before they had to go into session. She's provided them copies of the documents, the code information, if they have any questions. I am not aware of any that have come to us at this point. The ones that were raised, she has addressed. Your industry stakeholders have provided their support for the modifications, and so it's probably thus far been the best year we've had as far as approving modifications is concerned. So I anticipate they'll come up on the Senate side, but not before the end of this month. They may come up then when there's a Senate LCI subcommittee hearing schedule. So that's where we are with those. Otherwise, there are a couple issues that are in discussion. I think they're in the bill drafting stage. They may be far enough into drafting that they may actually be filed, possibly this week. One of them has to do with the energy codes. As you know, the energy codes have not been one of the codes that you all regularly update, and that's according to statute. It may be that those are going to be incorporated, at least as far as commercial construction is is concerned. I do not believe that residential construction would be included in that, but there have been discussions around that. I think there's a part of the industry that is interested in bringing the energy codes into your process. So that's potentially on the horizon. If there is a bill filed, look for it in my weekly legislative update that'll be in the introductions. There's also been a lot of discussion about hospital beds and hallways and whether that's a fire code issue. We've heard for several months now, they've been discussing, the Hospital Association reached out to the Fire Marshal's office for input. They've been working with the Department of Public Health because it's a regulation that they have that they say is based on the fire code that is at issue here. And I think they're seeking, or I know they're seeking to change that regulation, but I believe they'll go a step further and file a bill to address that question. Believe the hospitals are in a situation where at times they need to have hospital beds in hallways, and then there are concerns that they have been or would be cited as a fire code violation. So those are the two matters that I expect that there will be legislation filed on. Just like the other one, though, look for that in our weekly update. Should there be a need for testimony, we'll reach out to Madam Chair about testifying or at least attending, or perhaps one of you all if she needs to designate someone else. Those are the main issues we're looking at right now related to the council. Just as an overview generally, we still have House Bill 3021 out there. That is the one that was pre-filed before the 2025 session, and it would change the way we promulgate regulations for all government agencies. It would sunset existing regulations, and any ones that we wished to promulgate again would have to go through the promulgation process. Now, the committees are very aware of the impact this would have on the codes since the modifications are in regulation. I anticipate that we would be able to work with them on how to either get them repromulgated through the process, if that's what we need to do, or potentially they could be accepted from it. There are a few exceptions built into that statute or into that bill. So we would just have to work closely with the committees if that bill were to pass to determine how the regulations would be impacted. The bill passed the House unanimously last year. It did come up about 2 weeks ago in the Senate, and several people who are much closer to the regulatory process testified in those hearings. We had not heard those voices before. They were able to convey to the committee some of the concerns that we as agencies would have. As an agency, we will always do whatever the General Assembly directs us to do. We'll staff it however we need to. We will work with our council, with our folks in the agency to make this happen. That said, our primary concern would always be somehow losing a regulation in that process that impacted the community, and we would not want to do that. So we continue having those discussions. We'll keep you updated on where that stands. Right now, I believe it was the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee. I think on the Senate side, it's gone to Judiciary. So that's where it was most recently. They took about an hour and a half of testimony on that bill for 2 weeks ago. They will probably call that up again for additional testimony. So we'll keep you all posted to see what happens with that. It got amended on the House side. It could certainly be amended further on the Senate side. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Have any questions? Thank you so much for all your work supporting us.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the executive report from Maggie Smith.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. We'll jump in this morning with licensure statistics and the council's cash report. So you'll see on pages 7 and 8 of your materials the licensure statistics. We have a total of 1,400 licensees and registrants with the council at the moment, and we have had 20 new licensees and registrants since the last meeting in November. And then on page 9 of your materials, you'll find the cash report for the council with an ending year balance for for 2025 of $501,104.98. And the total for 2026, you'll notice, is much higher. That is based on prior years, so you can expect to see some fluctuation in that as the year goes on. Then on the next page, the ending cash balance for 2025 for the council's certification funds. Again, those are the funds that the council's permitted to use for registrants, code enforcement officer registrants who would like to receive training or take exams and are employed with a jurisdiction. Those funds are ending 2025, $131,064.27. Does anyone have any questions about those reports? All right. We'll move along. I have just a couple of reminders and updates for you. First, you should have received an email from Teresa regarding the statement of economic interest that you're all required to complete yearly. The deadline for that is the end of March, so if you'll just please make that a priority and contact the Ethics Commission if you have any questions. Regarding the code modification cycle, you heard from Ms. Beeson about the status of the regulations, and I just wanted to give you an update on the status of the books and noticing the industry. So we've been in communication with the International Code Council to have the South Carolina books published, and we're going to make those available in both print and electronic versions. Once the modifications have made it through the regulatory approval process, we'll really hit the ground running with that. So we expect those books to be available by the end of this year at the latest. And then we'll start preparing those notices, probably around the middle of this year. We'll send notices to anyone in the industry that would be affected. So that would be, of course, our licensees and registrants with the council, but also contractors, engineers. We want to make sure everyone's aware of the updates so that they can prepare well in advance of January 1, 2027. Last item, you should have the calendar invitations for the rest of the council meetings for this year, but you can also find those dates inside your binder. Just please remember to let us know if you'll be absent from the meeting, and we'll prepare for that. That's all I have for you this morning. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. And you'll be doing the modular building program report next.
Yes. All right. So your modular building program report is on page 11 of your materials. You'll notice I did format some of the data a bit differently for you this time. So far, I've been providing some of the production numbers for the modular program based on quarter, so you could see how things fluctuate. We tend to have a boost at the beginning of the year. It dies down around the middle, and then again towards the end of the year. But we've seen so much growth, and I really wanted to show you how it's progressed by year. And I think you'll notice that particularly for commercial modular construction, we've seen quite a lot of growth there. So we're really excited about that, and we are still working to hire an additional position for the modular building program. That would be someone who would take over a lot of the day-to-day modular duties from me, which would include license application processing, but also all of the plan review for the state. We had posted that position requesting someone who is already certified as a commercial plans examiner, but we had it posted for several months and did not have any qualified candidates. So we're revisiting that, and our intention is to repost this position as a non-certified position and allow them 2 years to gain their certification as a commercial plans examiner in all of the practice areas. And then we would hopefully reclassify them to a higher position, give them some incentives to do that. So we're excited. We sent those over again to HR this morning, so we're hoping to get that pushed through and reposted. If you do know of anyone interested, please send them our way. And one last thing is, at the council's discretion, the Modular Review Committee has been scheduled to meet on March 24th to discuss the residential modular labeling process and then discuss potential updates and what those updates would entail so that we can bring a report back to the council. So, anyone have questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the Office of Investigation and Enforcement, Maurice Smith.
Morning, Madam Chairman. The Office of Investigation Report Status Report for January 1st, 2026 is that we have had 2 complaints filed with this board this year. There is 1 active case. 1 case was already closed. We didn't have jurisdiction for that one. Just to bring you up to speed from last year, I did a quick study. There was 40 cases last year total for this board. 35 of those cases were closed. 4 are pending other action, which we'll take care of 1 today. And there was 1 that was still active that has been moved over to this year. That just for information purposes only.
Thank you.
Move on to the investigative review conference report. This one will be for voting. There was one case heard on, for the IRC on February 3rd, 2026, and as you will see, it's for a dismissal.
I move that we accept the report as presented.
Patrick Bradshaw, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Next, the Office of Disciplinary Counsel report. Roland Alston.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chairman, thank you. You should have a simple spreadsheet for your information. This report is as of January 28th of this year, but I believe it's also current as of today. We have 3 total open cases in my office. 2 of those, I just spoke with Maggie, will probably be noticed for hearing in August, given other responsibilities of this council during the summer. But we have 3 open cases. 1 of those 3 are pending closure. We closed 2 cases in 2025, and 1 was closed since October of last year. We have no under appeal. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving to new business. The supervision of building codes enforcement officers by a contracted building official. Would staff please provide some information? Thank you.
Absolutely. So we're bringing this to you today because we've had several local jurisdictions as well as staff from third-party inspection companies reach out to us in the last several months. And they've just had some questions about the role of supervision for a contracted building official. And I think this is simply just a matter of the jurisdictions and maybe even the jurisdictions themselves just not having the information that maybe we have here. And so we wanted to bring this to the council. Our impression from these conversations we've had is that the local jurisdictions and third-party companies just really aren't clear on exactly what services should be provided by a building official if they are contracted as the appointed building official for a jurisdiction. Our belief and guidance to the industry to date has been that the role of an appointed building official includes the supervision of all code enforcement staff employed by that jurisdiction, as well as the administration of the code enforcement department. The guidance has been based on the sections of law that we provided in your summary here, and we did highlight the specific sections that we tend to hone in on when we're looking at that. And so we're asking the council to provide guidance on exactly what the role of an appointed building official should be when they are under contract with a local jurisdiction.
Does anyone have any questions?
Maggie, is there anyone here that has a specific question? I mean, I don't understand exactly what some of the questions have been, because I'll say I'm under the same impression that you are as far as your past guidance has been, is that they're the person in charge of the officers of the enforcement of the building code. So is there something that, a particular situation or question that I might be missing?
Yeah, so we've had a couple jurisdictions reach out because the contract that the third-party company had with the jurisdiction was strictly for inspection services. So I think what it's coming down to is the contracts that are being written with some of the jurisdictions don't always include that full scope of, I would say, what you and I understand to be the role of the building official. And if jurisdictions aren't aware of these sections of law, they're not going to know any differently. But this is also new. I mean, we're seeing a lot more contracted building officials and inspectors in the industry. And so I think this is just worth bringing up and discussing and offering clarity, since we are receiving, not a lot, but some questions, and we want to make sure that everyone is filling their role correctly.
So for my clarification, so for instance, you're saying they contracted for the building inspections solely. I'm assuming that there's not a certified building official on staff. It's not as if they're just going out for additional help.
Correct.
Okay.
So we're even seeing in some jurisdictions where they've contracted for a building official, but the contract itself may just state that they're going to provide inspection services at the discretion of the jurisdiction. So the jurisdiction still wants to maintain as much control of that. We're also seeing some disputes as far as the hiring process, because jurisdictions, of course, will go out and hire a new provisional inspector. But if they do not bring that third-party company, that appointed building official by contract, if they don't bring them into that hiring process, they may not be willing to sign off on the supervision. And so it's just creating some issues there as well. Yeah.
So if I'm hearing it right, in some cases, it sounds like they're contracting for services for inspections, but don't have either a contracted building official or a building official on staff to actually handle the supervision portion of it.
Well, and I apologize for any confusion. I would say more what we're seeing is they have contracted for the building official, but because of the agreement they're making, they only want them to provide inspections at the jurisdiction's discretion and not fulfill the full role of a building, or they're not aware. They're not aware of what the full role of a building official entails. And so we thought that word from the council may offer enough clarity. We could distribute information out to the industry following the meeting and just provide some additional guidance so that everyone is on the same page and they have that same information.
I would think at some level, there has to be a building official involved and supervising the inspectors, regardless of whether or not that building official, those services are contracted or appointed.
So there is a section of statute that does require that every jurisdiction have an appointed building official. Unfortunately, that section is not something that this agency is able to enforce. And so when they don't have one, someone could file a complaint, but at that point, it may be for someone acting as a building official without certification. They can't file a complaint against the jurisdiction itself for failing to have the building official.
I'm going to add to this a little bit from the perspective of the regulation updates that y'all did last year. So this was a topic that came up with that committee that made those recommendations back to you. And one of the reasons this came up is, God, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago when I started in this position, a third-party inspector reached out to me, hey, we've taken a contract in a jurisdiction, they won't let me supervise anyone. And I was like, what do you mean they won't let you supervise anyone? You're the building official. Well, no, they say I'm the building official. I go out and do inspections and sign off on them, but that didn't make much sense to us. So some of these definition clarifications were because of issues like that, because especially when we come to issuing COs and stuff, you better believe if someone's signing my name on something that I'm going to have some role in what they're doing and be their supervisor. So we've been trying to make things clearer to some of these jurisdictions primarily, that if you're contracting these individuals and you're hiring them to come in and do your building services, they're doing your building services, which includes the administrative functions of code enforcement. So, I mean, I don't know that we need necessarily clarity in the way it's written, because I feel like that's kind of already there. But you know, we're walking a fine line here as well, because as staff of the council, we're not trying to offer contractual advice, and we don't want to be involved in contractual issues. But at the same time, we've got to kind of have more of a unified message of, you know, if you're going to hire these parties to come in, you're hiring them to come in. You're not hiring an individual and then saying, oh, but no, we retain, you know, the ability to fire, hire, you know, and supervise the other employees. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and just seeing too if y'all had any additional feedback on anything related to that, or if that's the way y'all see it as well.
Thank you. Having worked in a couple of jurisdictions where building department services has been contracted, I can honestly say that they don't include that contract building official in the organizational hierarchy of their department, of their jurisdiction. So you look at it and it is say contracted, and it's off to the side if you look at it in kind of organizational chart. And they don't put them over anybody. They really don't. They have other inspectors that a building official should, in a normal situation, be overseeing, but they're not allowing them. They're answering to the planning director or whoever, or zoning director, that's out there acting as a property maintenance inspector, as a residential inspector, commercial, whatever their role is in the jurisdiction, but they're not having them answer to the building official that's contracted. And so it is happening. It does happen. And I will say, the more rural the jurisdiction, the more ignorant. Now, when I say ignorant, I mean it by the true definition, not as an insult to anybody. They don't have knowledge of it, which is all it is. We can educate ignorance. And I would seriously suggest some kind of a, I don't know if this is something that the council is interested in, some kind of policy statement that even under contracted building official services, their scope of duty is the same as if they're employed directly. It's including, supervision of the licensed staff that work underneath them in full capacity. Somewhat, I don't know, something, I kind of think that's what y'all are asking for, some kind of support from us.
We would like to know if you agree and if you would like to make a statement. Like Molly said, I like that, just to unify the understanding on both sides.
I agree
Yeah.
completely, because I've seen it firsthand in more than one point of view.
I do too, and, one of the reasons they've contracted with that building official is so that they do have that number down there to sign off on these registrants. And by way of having that number and the supervision over these people, they need full supervision over these people in order to adequately perform that duty. So I 100% agree with the way y'all been looking at it, and also what Patrick says. I mean, I don't see there's another way to do it and abide by the regulations that we already have.
Basically, if I may, they're just wanting somebody's name and license number on a piece of paper so
Yeah.
they can say they meet state law. I have a building official. But yet they don't want to let that building official have any operational function or authority within their jurisdiction in that building department.
It's to the point that we've had people submit provisional applications because they were hired, and then the contracted building official reaches out to us and says, look, I didn't hire this individual, I'm not signing off on them being provisional, and, then they're coming to us for guidance. So I think the statutes and regs are pretty clear. We just wanted to make sure that y'all were on the same page. We did have a third party coming today to kind of explain that point of view, but with the weather, they didn't get here today. So, but we just really wanted to, like I said, I feel like this was a big point of that committee because we had examples going into that committee looking at the regulations, but it was just making sure we were in line with what y'all were thinking as well. Because, you're right. A lot of these jurisdictions, we saw it with property maintenance inspectors and other things. They come to us for guidance, and, we try to provide that when we can, probably for, this council more than any of the licensure boards we have, just because we're kind of trying to help people be compliant, hire the correct individuals and things like that. But we certainly want to make sure that those contracted companies are coming in and not being forced into doing anything as well. But at the same time, some of that they're going to have to handle on their own as part of that contract for services.
I think that's a two-way street, not only for the jurisdiction to meet the intent of the state law, not just to have a figurehead, a name on a piece of paper. That's not meeting the intent of the statute. That's just meeting it on the face. But also, I think as far as the contracting company goes, providing that building official or inspection services, on them to not only recognize but assume those responsibilities that we're talking about, as well as the jurisdiction allowing them to do it. They have to be willing to do it and do it. Not just take money because they got their name out there.
Have y'all, Darvis Brigman, have y'all been seeing those jurisdictions, legal advisor, attorneys coming to y'all asking certain questions about before they contract out with a third party to do the inspection?
It's usually the first sentence of every email we send, but it does not always happen. So we would definitely refer those back, and we do, telling them they need to, speak with their, we try to stay out of the administrative functions of local code enforcement as much as possible. In situations like this, though, when it's getting pretty hot and heavy, that's when we might come to y'all and ask for a little bit of additional guidance, and this is certainly one that's come that way, just like property maintenance inspectors and others. So, yes, we handle a lot of emails every day, and that's usually how we try to handle a lot of them. So, let me ask your advice, attorney. Do we need some type of motion, or should we put together some, or are we okay to put together some kind of document and guidance based on?
My recommendation would be, from what I've heard so far, that those who have spoke on it are in line with staff's view that contracted building officials need to assume the full duties as a building official and supervise. My recommendation would be just to make sure that it is clear that it is the position of this council and the group as a whole that there be a motion to that effect, and then staff can prepare. Staff can then prepare some sort of e-blast or distribute something to the community to that effect.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion then.
Yes.
Melissa Hopkins, I move that the council's point on this is in line with the previous understanding of staff, and that is that a contracted building official shall have all duties of the supervision of the employees and the department that goes with that responsibility.
And staff shall provide guidance.
And staff shall put that out and provide that guidance.
Patrick,
Bring second.
All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Next is the code enforcement registration classifications permitted to enforce the property management code without additional certification.
Yes, I will explain this one as well. So this is just a little bit of administrative cleanup based on this new registration classification that the council voted on with the regulation updates in May 2024. We have been asked by registered code enforcement officers if certification and registration as a property maintenance inspector is required if that individual is already certified as a residential inspector or commercial inspector. So we're seeking clarification from the council in order to address that specific question. And with respect to certified and registered building officials, council staff had previously provided guidance to the industry in the 2024 legislative update that we published on the council's website. And the guidance stated that the property maintenance inspector certification or registration is not required if the code enforcement officer is certified and registered already as a building official. This decision was made based on the qualifications for certification as a certified building official, where the legal module exam includes questions from the International Property Maintenance Code. So staff is asking the council to discuss and make a determination on whether certification and registration as a residential inspector or commercial inspector supersedes the requirement to be certified and registered as a property maintenance inspector as well, based on the qualifications necessary to obtain a residential inspector or commercial inspector certification from the ICC. We did provide in this document for you, this will be on page 16 of your materials, we provided a breakdown from the ICC's website of each of the certification types that are involved in this question, so both residential and commercial inspector, property maintenance inspector, and certified building official. It includes the scope of each exam as well as the references that are to be used by examinees. And again, this is how staff made our decision as far as allowing certified building officials to practice the inspection and enforcement of the property maintenance code without additional certification.
Patrick Bradshaw. When y'all made that comparison with the building official and the property maintenance inspector and the other categories that were asked about, the residential and the commercial inspectors, I'm assuming that the only one that covered it in its entirety as far as overlapping was the BCO, the building official.
That's correct. So when I pulled all of this together, I did notice that the IPMC itself is not mentioned as a reference for any of the exams related to residential or commercial inspector. But we have been receiving this question quite a lot. So we wanted to ensure that the council had a chance to weigh in on this and make a decision on those particular classifications.
And the property maintenance code covering all of the trades as well as structural, as well as some fire provisions from the fire code, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yes.
Hey, one of the questions that came up, those jurisdictions who have code enforcement, which does not fall under the building department, they're separate. And I think we had cleared us that if their ordinance itself had that what they regulate on the code enforcement sides of dealing with, like the property maintenance code have high weeds, junk cars, and things of that nature. But if they had an ordinance in place in the code enforcement department that covers their day-to-day operation, that still was it was okay for them to do that, continue to perform those inspections, what they do, versus
That's
the
how we
property maintenance.
Correct. That's how we understand it, is that if the municipality has, let's say, police officers, for example, we see that a lot enforcing municipal codes, but it's coming from their regulations and it's not related to building systems, then they're permitted to inform those inspections as a municipal code enforcement officer.
Madam Chair, I think the way that the staff have already been looking at it, only allowing the CBO certified building official to have authority over property maintenance without any other certifications is accurate. I think it follows with certifications offered that we recognize from ICC for their licensure. And I think it should continue that way. And if anybody wants to, other than the building official, wants to enforce the property maintenance code directly, they would need that certification.
Are there other questions or discussion? Everybody had to do speed reading.
Patrick, let me ask you, why do you feel that way? Because it's just items such as maybe
Maybe fire code and the other issues that are overlap. Granted, it does touch on some of the commercial and residential certifications, but it's so much broader than just that. I think so, yeah. It's a lot broader. There is, and there is a good bit of legal stuff in that certification exam. Not included anywhere in any of the other certifications, except for the legal module. I think you, Maggie, when you were discussing it, you brought up the legal.
Correct.
strictly be found in the legal aspects, not in a chapter 1 of one of the other codes.
Not really.
I'm not taking the property maintenance.
It's got a lot to do, because a lot of these property maintenance inspectors are entering private property, not commercial properties. And so it does go over a good bit of legal aspects of the code. Not just what's in Chapter 1, but what does Chapter 1 mean when it says, because, I mean, the code section in Chapter 1 of each one of the codes talks about right of entry as the title, of which it should be retitled Limits on Right of Entry. Because really, truly, that's what that whole section reads, is when you can and can't enter someone's property. And private property is so much different than commercial property. We can all walk in Walmart and walk around the public areas, even as an inspector. But you cannot walk on somebody's other personal property, and we talk about what curtilage is, discuss actually what is, yes, not this curtilage of somebody's personal property, but what you can use is an exception to the search warrant and can't use as evidence, what would be a violation of evidentiary findings.
Are there any other questions or discussion? Maggie, could you detail exactly what you're asking the council to do at this point?
Absolutely. So what we're asking for is a motion on whether or not the council believes a residential inspector and/or commercial inspector would be qualified to perform property maintenance inspections without first obtaining certification as a property maintenance inspector.
Is there a motion for this?
I do want a follow-up question. So in the legal module of for the certified building official or the residential building inspector, are those issues generally covered? The same issues you just mentioned?
The only legal module that you have to have is for a certified building official.
Official, okay.
Inspector and residential don't require any kind. I would like to make a motion along the lines, and Maggie, I'm going to have to ask you to restate. I was in the middle of reading that paragraph again. What it was your intent.
Absolutely. We would like a motion from the council to state whether or not you believe that a residential and/or commercial inspector would be qualified to perform property maintenance inspections without first also obtaining the property maintenance certification from the ICC.
I would like to make a motion, Madam Chair.
And subsequent registration as well.
Yes, correct.
I would like to make a motion that the ongoing interpretation that the only other certification other than property maintenance inspector that be allowed to do property maintenance inspection be someone with the property maintenance certification and registration. And not include any other certifications other than certified building official.
I think that might have been a little bit jumbled. Was your intent to, you might want to try that one more time. I think it got switched around, or maybe I misunderstood.
Okay, what she said. I want to make a motion.
Mary Ann.
No, I want to make a motion that to enforce the property maintenance code, you have to be a certified and registered property maintenance inspector in the state of South Carolina, or a certified building official. That better? That's shorter?
Yes, sir. And I may have just misunderstood you.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
Melissa,
I just want to make sure for everybody's sake it was clear.
Melissa Hopkins, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, it is that time of year for our election of board chair and vice chair.
If you'll allow, I'll go ahead and get us started.
Yes, please.
All right. And so it is time to elect the chair for the Building Codes Council. Is there a nomination for chair?
Frank Hill, Delissa Clark.
Second, Melissa Hopkins.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. It's time to elect the vice chair for the Building Codes Council. Is there a nomination for vice chair?
Patrick Bradshaw, I'd like to nominate Darbus Brigman.
Chris Cullum, second.
Are there any other nominees?
Do you want it, Darbus? You set up. Sorry.
Since there are no others, the nominations are now closed. We have a motion and a second for Darbus Brigman to serve as the council vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, we're at the time of the agenda for public comments. Is there anyone in attendance who wishes to have public comments? Quiet group. Okay, in that case, the date of the next council meeting is Tuesday, May 19th at 10:30 in this location. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
We haven't been here long enough.
Yes, we have. I was ready. 2026 goals.
Motion to adjourn.
Brad.
I'm sorry, we were talking over you.
David Black, motion to adjourn, I seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
You bet.